Bienvenidos, worldwide fans of cinema, back for more Enfuegotainment coverage of the hottest entertainment with an edge. I'm Jaime En Fuego.
I'm Cecil Laird.
And we are here to talk about DC's big gamble, perhaps? That's right, it's basically the after Batman v Superman, and how much is the tone gonna change for Suicide Squad?
The next war will be fought with these metahumans.
Please don't forget.
Ours or theirs.
I want to assemble a task force of the most dangerous people on the planet.
No pain, no gain. Never stand down, made our own way.
Y'all jokers must be crazy.
This is the deal. You're going somewhere very bad
Look at the pretty lights.
to do something that'll get you killed.
You might want to work on your team motivation.
I must admit, I really feel like it was quite the contrast, and we're here to talk about it today. We always do a little bit of BUENO, MALO, and FEO here on Enfuegotainment, but damn, man, this was one that was highly anticipated by both of us, I know. Did it deliver for you, man?
I think it did, yeah. You know, here's the thing. Some people had really high hopes for it. I tried to temper my expectations.
Same here.
And like a lot of people were like, oh, it's going to be DC's Guardians of the Galaxy. And here's the thing. It obviously doesn't reach those heights, but I can see how people might draw comparisons afterward because it was a very ensemble dynamic, clearly, as it's not making any sort of secret about. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, I had a really fun time with it. It wasn't the deepest of movies, although it was deeper with certain aspects than I thought they would be. So we can get into that eventually. But ultimately, I thought it was a big success.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's funny, as the pre-screening that we got to watch, thanks to International Horror Sci-Fi Film Festival, gracias Monty for hooking up those tickets, man. But I overheard somebody saying it was a DC movie, but it really felt like a Marvel movie. And maybe that was because of the fact that this felt like one big music video in a lot of ways to me.
Yeah.
It was just like relentless editing. It almost felt like a bunch of trailers jumbled together, except until maybe the third act. But if I'm going to start with a BUENO, the thing that I really liked about it is the two leads especially. I haven't seen Will Smith in a movie where I really enjoyed him as much as in this in quite a while, I must admit. He was great as Deadshot. And you know, within the first few minutes of the movie, the two main characters that this is going to circle around, right?
Yeah, him and, of course, Harley Quinn.
Margot Robbie!
Yeah. And they get sort of extensive backstories. And that's actually going to be sort of the first BUENO that I'm going to mention is the fact that I liked how they structured the movie. I mean, it was a 2+ hour movie, but to me it did not feel that way. And part of that was owed to the fact that the first about 20 minutes or so is dedicated to introducing each of the characters, but not in a flippant way. The way they're doing it is not throwaway. They're giving appropriate time to each character, you know, or the ones that matter. Sure, Croc gets a little bit less than the others.
Well,
and
then you can tell who the supporting characters are and who your main build peeps are.
Right, exactly. But I loved that, frankly. I liked that we got a good 5-minute backstory for Deadshot and a good 5-minute backstory for Harley and all this
Both
stuff.
of which were very well done.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed how they did the beginning of the movie and sort of... Because we can't have everyone meet each other like they did in Guardians when most of the team is locked up in penitentiaries.
Yeah.
So,
well, we did see some similarities to that, right?
little bit. So.
Yeah. It was kind of funny, though, because of the fact that I wasn't expecting them to start it in the manner in which that they did. They pretty much... You're right there in the incarceration, but then they used some, I guess, minor spoiler. There's some Deadpool-esque flashbacks to the backstory stuff.
Deadpool was not the originator.
I
of the
know
flashback.
it's just the most recent superhero person to employ it in that specific fashion. But I thought that visually it was very cool in the way that they were like bringing up stats about each character and stuff.
Yeah, they were like
video game.
They were motion playing cards, like the sports cards, you know, with the stats, but while they're moving, and it was cool because it might take some out of the movie, but I liked it. Like the Deadshot one it was raining bullet shells, and he just had his hand, and bullet shells were bouncing off his hand. So it was clearly they weren't taking like snapshots of the movie. It was like they literally had them stand in front of a green screen to make these title cards, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, it was visually very cool. So credit to writer-director David Ayer because he created a very distinctive visual style to this. It felt just as comic booky as Zack Snyder stuff to me, but in not taking itself quite as seriously.
It's a much
fashion.
more grounded way, which is what you'd expect from a guy that's made the movies like David Ayer has made, frankly. Street level and very violent.
Yeah.
They do manage to pull off not getting an R rating in this because a lot of the hardcore violence is kept off screen,
Yeah,
and a lot of the bad guy violence it's the typical workaround where it's not
It's
quite
a fail
human.
for me, yeah.
Okay.
So they're allowed to shoot the crap out of them and slice them up, but we'll save that for like a later segment. But yeah, I felt like the acting in this really elevated a script that while I love the dialogue. I thought that was some of the best stuff, and that was great casting,
Yes.
elevating, great dialogue, and a story that I felt like, especially once we get to the villain, I'll save that for the MALO because, well, visually, the villain I thought looked fantastic once you finally, because they're banding all of these bad guys together to go against something bigger and scarier and more monumental, especially in a world where we know that, as found out in the last trailer, there is no Superman. So in the continuity, it does take place, after, for the most part, BVS.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm gonna go ahead and jump in with another bueno if that's cool with you.
Yeah.
And that, like you said, the cast, and yes, we can definitely point out that Margot Robbie was phenomenal.
Yeah.
But that's actually not the point I was going to make. That I wanted to mention is sort of going to piggyback on what you were saying about the acting, because I liked the portrayal of each of the characters. I thought they did such a great job, and some of the characters might have gotten somewhat short shrift, but it wasn't so bad that it was like, oh man, I wasn't stewing on it or anything, but everyone that was in there was pretty interesting to watch. Even Croc.
Yeah.
I mean, there was some funny...
He looked pretty great.
Yeah, there was some great moments there. I thought they did a really awesome thing with El Diablo that I was not expecting.
Unsung hero. That was near, we can't say when in the film, but when his powers start to really manifest themselves, and that's the thing. We know Enchantress is in this, and there's going to be some CGI with her. Same with the El Diablo guy. Visually, once again, Ayer just bringing a very distinctive, and I guess that was really the only time when the film had some darker tinges to it, was when, the conflict really started to brew and you found out, okay, this is the nature of the villain, this is the nature of the conflict, and it's way bigger than just a bunch of bad guys that they plucked to form a team. So
Yeah, and just to go back real briefly, I did mention it just in passing, but we do need to talk about Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn a little bit more in depth, because frankly, she really stole the show anytime she was in it, and they made her her and Deadshot, like you said, were sort of the main characters, but they had her do some things that was like made her sort of the big winner kind of thing. But yes,
more
and no.
more than just licking bars in a
yeah,
prison,
well, that's the thing. They, of course,
she had the hotness, but the craziness.
Hypersexualized, but she was very, very cool and insane. But at the same time, the friendliest of all of them. Like, hi, I'm Harley Quinn. Like she introduced herself to so many people.
I like her.
And not only that, but you'd think with a movie like Suicide Squad, where there's some meta members and some non-meta members, that the meta members are going to shine, or the Deadshot that has deadly accuracy is going to shine, but they make sure and go back to Harley Quinn. You see her working that bat, man. She uses that and clangs people, and she's in the fight. So it's really cool to see that they made sure that Harley got to be badass while fighting, as well as just being the cute eye candy.
Totally, and they fleshed out her backstory really well. I think it was on par with the Deadshot one, if not more intriguing. I mean, she was the character everybody was going to see, obviously.
I must say, her flashbacks were the most interesting.
They were
for
awesome.
A couple of reasons.
Now, was that, without spoiling anything, was it accurate to the comic books?
Yes and no. Yes and no. Yeah, largely it was. But they took a liberty, which they allude to in the trailer, with a very brief shot or two. Which honestly, that particular moment that I'm alluding to had one of the most beautifully shot. The colors and the way it came out. And once you guys see it, you'll know what I'm talking about. But melting colors look really, really cool when shot right.
Indeed.
And honestly, on the flip side of that, I think I'm going to use it to segue into the first MALO, if that's okay with you.
I'm wondering if it's what I was going to say, because there's one actor that I was really excited for this.
I was excited to see what they could bring to the role. Unfortunately,
Hollow.
It just wasn't. It's not so much. It didn't ring so much hollow to me as it did. It just didn't reach the levels that actors in the past have, and
we're talking about.
I'm referring to Jared Leto's Joker.
Hell of an actor, that guy.
Hell of an actor, and I deeply respect what he attempted to do.
He did something different.
He did something different. Unfortunately, you take that risk, and you risk not having it land.
It didn't work for me.
It didn't. It worked on a level. Like, it actually kind of seemed like this Joker belonged with this Harley, which is nice. That's good.
Maybe.
But it's because we didn't have a choice.
But it does. But
she might have belonged with a different Joker even more.
I don't honestly feel like this Joker is going to pair well with Batman in the future. Personally,
it's going to be interesting, but it appears we might have that opportunity at least.
Yeah, I guess he was one of the villains of the story, but not the main villain. And whereas he was a little disappointing for me, I just really didn't like who ends up being the main antagonist in this. While visually awesome, as I was hinting at earlier, it just didn't have much punch. And
visually awesome in a way.
In a way, yeah.
The way that it was portrayed, there was some movements that were extraordinarily distracting to me.
Yes, big time. They looked very CG, and that was another thing. I felt like there was some bad CG used in this movie, especially once you see last trailer, once again, spoilerific a little bit, you see like rifts opening in the sky and all this stuff, and that's something bad for me, is where you get to the third act in this film and you finally realize what they're facing, and it's like, man, haven't I already seen interdimensional openings with so much this past season, from the Turtles movie to the stuff in the X-Men Apocalypse, and I mean, also like cities floating around and rocks, buildings being destroyed and all this.
In all fairness, that happens a lot in comics too.
I'm just sick of do something different, for God's sake. It really felt a very by the numbers. I loved the interplay of the team, but once they had to really mobilize and actually go after something, that's where I felt like the film was just kind of lacking. When they were all shooting quips back and forth and interacting, the cohesion and the chemistry between this cast, this ensemble was great, but I felt like when they weren't actually interacting as much, when they were out fighting the evil, that's where the film got boring for me.
Yeah, and I
my
can
mind started to wander.
That.
I was just
can understand that.
Let's get back to more jokes,
it's sort
man.
of a little akin to how I think I felt with the villain from Thor 2.
Okay.
But a little bit otherworldly, but nothing that's really explained to us very well, which is unfortunate. But yeah, the movement I was talking about is then at the end made some choices with sort of how they moved towards the end, and it ended up being more distracting. Like, really? That's the choice you decided to make? So that is what I would consider my ugly, is the particular
we're
motions
jumping into the
of the
Feo.
villain, Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, Feo for me is once again the only way that you can get some hardcore shoot 'em up, slash 'em up violence in these PG-13 comic movies, is if it's either weird, warped, mutated stuff or robots, which we've seen in so many of the Marvel films recently. And so, yeah, it's almost like kind of a cop-out, but I guess it's just the only way around those constraints, supposedly. So
yeah, one other thing that I guess could be considered a Feo, but in the positive way that we like to do sometimes, because we didn't get enough of it, in my opinion. And this might be teeny bit spoilery,
little bit,
but during at one point, there's flashbacks, and then at one point, everyone on the team is able to sort of see their heart's desire.
Oh, that was good.
I thought that was neat, but specifically in one of the flashbacks, we got to see a representation of a very, very classic Alex Ross art piece with the Joker in a suit and Harley in her classic jester costume as they're dancing in a circle. And I'm sure Fuego will pull up a picture to show you guys, but it's the Joker with his arms around Harley and her like this,
It's a very brief glimpse of it that we get.
But I was like, oh! Like, I remember I was
cool
like, oh! And then it went away, and I was like, "No!"
That's so brief.
And she even when she gets her clothes, when the government or when Argus recruits them, and they all get their gear, the first thing she does is she pulls out that thing and holds it up against herself. So it does. The jester costume does get a cameo in the movie.
Yeah, and if I was going to say another Feo, I know it's Harley Quinn, and I know it's a beautiful woman like Margot Robbie, but they oversexed her a little bit.
They could have given her shorts that went
worse.
past her cheeks, at least.
Hey, we got about
I didn't mind that personally.
We got quarter cheek.
I didn't mind that. It was more like half cheek.
Yeah,
I didn't.
Certain scenes.
Of course, I didn't mind it, but I feel bad. Like it feels like she should get a little more clothes to wear between those shorts and the heels that she has to wear through the whole
it's
thing.
Total objectification.
It's gotta be rough.
Especially since in like the video games and stuff, and even the books, haven't they like desexualized her a little bit with her wearing like a little more attire, like
they have
pants instead of booty shorts,
shirt and a jacket over the shirt sometimes. But and honestly, the thing, a lot of people might be upset that they didn't get to see the Jester costume that much, but when you actually see it on screen, it's like, yeah, her wearing that for a whole movie wouldn't really make a lot of sense. No. It really wouldn't. I think her wearing this, the street level Harley, is definitely the way to go, so I think they made that right choice.
Yeah. And I think one other last fail that I want to mention, one last little ugly thing, is that I think there may be a danger of some people coming into this movie thinking they're going to get a lot of Batman. And that's kind of an ugly misconception because of the fact that he's used tastefully, but he doesn't dominate the film. He shows
tastefully but sparingly.
Yeah, and he shows up when he needs to, and he doesn't like take the attention away. He really supplements things when he needs to, and they didn't overdo it. I thought it was the right choice to make because let these villains shine and let them be the focus, but I think some people, from the way they put him in the trailers and stuff, they may not get exactly what they're expecting. So yeah, you're seeing a Suicide Squad movie, not Batman - Suicide Squad or / Suicide Squad.
A little bit of Justice League as well.
Yeah, a little bit. And since we're in spoiler territory, we're going to do a full spoiler review with our buddy Luis Hernandez, who's helped out with comic reviews before, but there is some cool after credits that hints at some things to come, and the cameo ended up being who I think a lot of people expected it to be, but maybe not in the attire or the fashion that everybody was expecting. So,
I was expecting this. Fuego was not expecting this.
Well, there was rumors going both ways. So, but yeah, it was cool to see that continuity. See a little Batman. See some other characters that are going to be showing up later as they flesh out this DCEU expanded universe. Is that what they're calling it?
I have no idea.
Entertainment universe. I don't know, man. But in any event, I didn't love this movie, but I really had a lot of fun with it, and I liked it a lot. And while I feel like the third act slowed, and there were certain things that they could fix, certain things that could have been done a little better, I still really enjoyed it a lot. It was good fun, and it definitely needs to be seen because it really carries on this new, I guess, vibe that we're going to be getting in what looks like Justice League, and maybe not so much Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is kind of its own beast, I think so.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, but I'm excited for that. I'm excited for what they're doing, and I think this will actually turn the tide a little bit for people being even more excited about their future titles.
I think so too.
Yeah. Awesome, man. So I gotta extend a grande gracias to you for assisting with this, and also once again to Montiazzi and the Phoenix Film Festival's International Horror and Sci-Fi Film Festival, their sublet branch of all the scarific and scientific radness. We're gonna be covering that next April as well. Very excited, and so jump on Twitter and Facebook, like them, check out their stuff, look for giveaways, which is what we actually get to see this for. So there's lastly a show that Cecil and I do together, The Horror Show. It is a spooktacular variety show on YouTube that he's going to give you guys all the details about right now.
Very simply, it's a horror variety show at youtube.com/The Horror Show channel, where we do movie reviews, how-tos, comedy sketches, celebrity interviews, con coverage, all kinds of good stuff, all under the horror umbrella. So if that's your bag, check it out.
Tons of awesomeness indeed, and lots of awesomeness always being covered by me, Jaime En Fuego. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Like, share, subscribe. Just keep up on all of the hottest entertainment with an edge with me. That is my passion. That's why I'm glad to have Cecil around to help me cover the non-spooktacular. And so, yeah, I guess this is going to do it until our spoiler review of Suicide Squad. So make sure to check this film out this weekend. Comment, let us know what you thought about it. If you thought it really hit that dead shot, hit that mark, or if you thought it was kind of lacking in some areas like I did. But yeah, until next time, Sin Amigos, when we get to talk more of this awesome entertainment with an edge. Hasta luego. But let's try to make it sooner rather than later. Adios.
Bye. Yeah.